Hello everybody, this is Orange and welcome to my Abyss. And this week, I would like to talk about some of my favorite manga of all time and also a few comics because I read those too. Don't worry, there's not too many. But yeah, I just went through my shelf and I selected about 20 different manga series that I love, that I adore, that I reread. And these manga series can be short or long, completed or still ongoing. The only thing that matters is I care about them, and I love them, and I just want an excuse to talk about the manga that I enjoy. So I have more behind here, but you might be saying that some of the choices are a bit generic for a manga tuber to say, and some of them are a bit obscure, and I just wanna talk about the manga I like. Hopefully, get some more eyes on some more obscure series, or get a different point of view into some more popular series. So let's get started with the pile. I'm just going to talk about things I like. Firstly, we're not starting off with a manga because, we are. A manga I do not own. And that I'm representing it with this one little blonde boy. It's Zatchbell. Lucas is standing in for Zatch. Now, I love the Zatchbell manga. I think it's fantastic. It's a really good emotional shonen, which really needs to get more eyes on it. It's funny, it's heartfelt, it's fantastic. The problem is it's out of print, and when it was printed, only 25 out of the 33 volumes, I believe, were actually ever printed in America, or at least in these neck of the woods translated. And I think that Zatchbell deserves another shot. I think you should reprint it because it's a fantastic series. I love Zatchbell. It's great. I cry while I read it. It's fantastic. So I'm gonna put him back there on the shelf next to all my other beautiful figures. Alright, and another manga that I love, which is gonna go into the more generic pile, is of course JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't think you can see off frame right now, but I have an entire JoJo's Part 3 wall scroll with all the JoJo Part 3 boys on it. And I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I got into it a few years ago, and I remember getting into JoJo's. I just watched the anime, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, or whatever. And then this always happens for me. Like, I watch something, and I'm like, okay, whatever. That was something I watched. And then a month passes, like a month to 2 months pass, and then my brain starts thinking about it again, and then I become obsessed. That's my trial of becoming a fan of things. Is it has to be a few months after I've watched it, and if I start thinking about it again, I'm automatically a fan. But it's JoJo's. It's a classic, divided up into multiple parts. A lot of the earlier parts are a bit they are a bit dated sometimes. Like, it is early shonen, so power systems, buff men, some occasionally generic stuff. But honestly, even people diss on part 1 often, but I love part 1 too. I think Jonathan is an absolute treat. I adore that sweet, sweet man so much. Dee was a great villain. And then when moving on to later parts, Joseph is my all-time favorite JoJo. I love him. He's just that energy that man has. Part 3 is my favorite part. I love the road trip thing. Part 5, also great. 6, I'm so hyped for that anime. 7, oh boy, 7's good too. There's so much good. And I think 8 is actually, it's been announced that one's ending soon. And I wonder what we're going to get for part 9. But yeah, it's JoJo's. It's a classic. It's evolved so much over the course of, God, how long has it been? 30, 20, too many years. So many years. Read JoJo's. It's a classic. Might be a bit dated at the start, but you'll learn to love it. Put you right there. And another super generic series to call your favorite is Fullmetal Alchemist. No one has ever in the history of the entire world said, oh boy, I love Fullmetal Alchemist. But yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist, it gets all that recognition for a reason. It's a fantastic series. It's an absolute classic. It really, I think it deserves more recognition than it gets because it's such a great series. It's what I always go to, rereading, rewatching. I always show it to friends when we have movie nights and we have to watch something. I'm like, hey, let's watch this show. It's either that or we watch something else. And I love Fullmetal Alchemist. I love the characters. I love the setting. The artwork is fantastic. It's just such a meaningful series to me. It was one of the earliest series I started to read when I was getting into manga. So yeah, it's fantastic. I adore this series so much. And I think all the praise the series gets is never enough because it's so good. And also I'm loving these the Full Metal edition so far. They're so beautiful in hardcover. Just look at my beautiful man. Look at my boy, my sweet, sweet son. Which, yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist. If you haven't gotten around to it yet, get on that right now. It's a classic. And beneath that, I had to put something Tezuka into this pile of Osamu Tezuka, grandfather of manga, whatever you want to call him. He made a lot of different manga in his time, and a lot of it's like a lot better than people would actually give it credit for. You'd often like think like, oh, it's a retro stuff, it can't be that good. But a lot of it I think really holds up. So someone who's read a lot of his manga and seen like a lot of the anime based on his work, a lot of it doesn't hold up. A lot of it isn't perfect, but a lot of it is really good. And even then, like, jumping into a lot of, like, his older series, you will occasionally see something, like, dated or yikesy. But in the context of the time, it was more normalized. But, like, go into that, like, all of the series, like, knowing this was made way back in the day. So you're gonna see some occasionally not very good stuff. But, I picked Blackjack for being my favorite Tezuka series. I think Blackjack is absolutely fantastic. It's a series... I haven't been summarizing like any of these series, but it's a series about like an unlicensed surgeon just doing surgeries on people, and it's so good. Like the characters really hold up. It's episodic. Like each chapter focuses on a new like plot line, a new surgery that our main man has to do, and I think it's great. It has a lot of good comedy in it. It has a lot of good drama. Blackjack is fantastic. If you haven't watched the 2004 anime, the 2004 anime, I suggest watching that one because that's really good as well. I think more eyes got to be on Tezuka stuff, more than just like looking at his stuff through like oh, it's important historically. Like a lot of his stuff like really holds up. Watch some Tezuka anime, it's fantastic. Read some Tezuka manga, a lot of it's pretty good. But going on from that, we got Children of the Sea, baby. Children of the Sea is a very interesting series to me. It took me such a long time to collect. It's only like 5 volumes, but it took me 5 years to collect, and I don't know why. But it's a great series. It's like super ethereal to me as someone who cares deeply about the ocean, marine biology student. It is like having a series like focus a lot on the ocean. Like even the series can get like really spiritual sometimes when it comes to like talking about the ocean and the waters and all that kind of stuff. It's great, and the artwork is like super rough, but it's also like beautiful at the same time. I suggest if you want a really interesting summary, you watch the movie. The movie is so wild. It totally like loses like logical plotting after like the 1 hour mark, but it becomes just such a beautiful spectacle. I don't think plot always matters in a movie. I think sometimes the spectacle is what matters. And that's my hot take. Underneath that, we got Mob Psycho 100. What can one say about Mob Psycho 100 that hasn't been said before by any other manga or anime fan? This series is by One Punch Man creator One. I actually think the series is a lot better than One Punch Man, and I do like One Punch Man a whole bunch. But for sometimes when I watch that one, when I watch or read that one, it feels like, oh, the joke is kind of getting a bit like old. I do love the series though; it's fantastic. But Mob Psycho, like, it's constantly evolving. Like the characters are fantastic. It has a lot to like just say about like superpower anime tropes and just things in general. And like the artwork may be really rough in this one, but I think that adds to the charm. I think it's super great to see people who like really aren't like the best artists actually getting into art. Like I have a few comics that I collect out there which are done by like artists who really aren't the best at art, and I read a bunch of webcomics, and I think it's great to see like people, no matter their like art skill level, be able to like just make a story that can connect with people. So I really suggest reading Mob Psycho 100. Even if the artwork puts you off, you'll eventually get used to it. I think it's great. I think it's beautiful in its own way. And that's why I love Reagan. He's on the back right there. My awful man. I adore him. Underneath that, we have an older series being Plus Anima. I think Plus Anima is a super interesting series. It's a really like, it's only 10 volumes long, so it's not the longest, but it is a Tokyo Pop thing, so it's gonna be hard to find. But Plus Anima is I think a fun like action fantasy series. It's really short. I love the small cast of characters that it has. I think is it a power set? Is people being half animal a power set? I'm gonna say it is. But I love the power set, I love the art, I love the character design. This is just a really good like comfort series if I want like a quick little action thing that I want to read with a bunch of characters I like. So putting you here, and underneath that we have the woman, the myth, the legend, the Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon is probably one of my favorite like franchises, whether it be like the 90s anime, the musicals, the live action series, even like Crystal and Eternal to an extent. And of course the classic manga. It's really like fun to hear. It's fun to listen to. I love magical girls. It's a fantastic genre for me. And Sailor Moon didn't invent the magical girl genre. The magical girl genre has been around since like the 60s, I think. Yeah, 60s, 70s, really early. But Sailor Moon did like revolutionize like a lot of things that are seen in like magical girl anime today. Like so much stuff. So much stuff Sailor Moon did for the genre. It's also, I just think, a really like heartfelt, like fun, just flowery, good old shoujo series. And I'm normally like not too much into shoujo. Like I haven't read too much shoujo, but if it's magical girl series, I read it. No questions asked. But it's a classic. If you can make them out on my terrible phone camera, I actually have a bunch of Sailor Moon figures and like dolls. They're action figures. It's called an action figure, not a doll. They're right down there. I got like a whole Jupiter shrine because she's my favorite. Yeah, Sailor Moon is a great series, and the manga and the anime, pretty much all of it can be dated in some points, but like it's great for its time. So like read it if you have a chance. We're gonna take a quick intermission to actually talk about some comic books that I like. There's only 2, don't worry, we'll get back to manga very soon. And the first comic that I actually like to talk about will be Night School, the Weirin book. So a lot of the comics I do really end up liking are ones that I read when I was super young, and they really got me into just comics as a medium. And Night School, I think it's a really good short series. I believe it actually has a currently publishing spin-off right now. I'm not too sure about that. I haven't picked it up yet, because I feel like I just love the series so much. But it's monsters, it's witches, it's magic. Got a whole bunch of good stuff in here. It's really good. I enjoy it thoroughly. And underneath that, we got probably one of the most like dear comic books to me personally, and that being the Amulet series. Amulet in general. Amulet is a super important series to me because I think without it, I wouldn't be into comic books today. I wouldn't be into art today. I wouldn't be into storytelling today. It's a series that I read when I was really young that like encapsulated like my brain and like really made me want to go back and reread it and explore the worlds and explore the characters. If it wasn't for the series, I wouldn't be wanting to like write comics and make stories and just art in general. This is a super like important series to me. And I know a lot of other people like this series as well. It's just fantastic. If you really haven't given Amulet a chance, like give it a chance. I adore the series so much. I actually have signatures by the author for pretty much most of my volumes, I think. There's one more book left in the series, and I don't know when that's going to come out. But I'm excited to see the saga eventually end because it's been such a big part of my life, and without it, I wouldn't be who I am today. So yeah, that's my bit the comic side, where I talk about comics for 5 minutes, and we're getting back to manga, don't you worry. And we're going to talk about Land of the Lustrous. So Land of the Lustrous is a series that I see like a few people on MangaTube actually talking about. Not everyone, but the people who do talk about it adore the series. And guess what? I'm just like the rest of them. I adore Land of the Lustrous as well. It has a really good anime. It's a CGI anime, which I think CGI can actually look really good in anime. And Land of the Lustrous is the stellar example to that. It's a beautiful looking series. It has just watch the anime if you want to give it a chance, but also read the manga because it goes so much further. It's an interesting story about like a character's like growth over time. Like how does growth like change you as a person or gem in their case? The people around them, the world, the art. It's all just beautiful. It's so hard to actually explain how like personal this story can get sometimes with just the idea of change. It's also just a beautiful series. It's great. It's fantastic. Who doesn't love Land of the Lustrous? These spines are all out of whack. And I'm actually going to go for this one next. This is just in general, but Junji Ito stuff in general, because I have like all of his anthologies out there and all of like the books he has published in English currently, and I couldn't just pick just one, so I just pulled Smashed off of the shelf because I love Smashed. It has a lot of Sochi stories in there, and I love those. But you can see I have like Twisted Visions back there. Good stuff. Junji Ito, good stuff. Good guy. I love it. But yeah, he's just a really good horror mangaka. He does like a lot of fantastic like art. Not really fantastic. Sometimes the stories can get a bit iffy sometimes, but I think the emotions really hide in that. They hide in everything. It's fantastic. But yeah, we gotta love Junji Ito. Collect his stuff if you haven't. I think it's fantastic. He's just great at artwork. Just love me some Junji Ito, so I had to pick at least a few of a story. So this is just a over blanket of Juji Ito work in general, because oh boy, they are good. And underneath it, I'm actually going to read this one for last. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten about that one. We have the Pokemon Adventures manga. So I think I've said it in a few videos before, or probably on Twitter as well if you ever follow me there. Pokemon is probably one of my favorite like multimedia franchises. It's a series that I've been like with since I was a young kid, like most people, being like, oh, I got into Pokemon when I was a kid. It's like, yeah, you and 95% of the population. I'm not special, but I love Pokemon, and I think the Pokemon Adventures manga it's a fantastic like retelling or just reinterpretation in general of the video games. It's a really good series for younger audiences as well. It's great. It like retells the story of the mainline games, mainline games and the remakes. And I love that Viz is doing the collector's editions of the spines, but or the volumes, and I'm wondering, are they gonna go further? Because they're only releasing 10 of these, and there's more Pokemon Adventures. You guys are stopping after the Fire Red Leaf Green arc. What about the rest of them? So I'm hoping that we'll eventually get more Pokemon Adventures in the collector's editions, because these are really beautiful editions. I adore them. I adore Pokemon, but it's fun adventure. It's Pokemon. You get to see all the classic Pokemon characters that I love and I adore. And you get to see it constantly evolving, like all the callbacks, everything. Just Pokemon Adventures manga. It's something special. It's something fantastic. And beneath that, you're never going to hear any other manga tuber ever say this before. Wow, Monster is so good. No one's ever said that before, but it's Monster, and I love Monster. I love all of these series. Why do I keep on saying that? But it's Monster, baby. Monster is a really fantastic series. Just looking at the cover, being all like, I just looked at the cover and I immediately thought, oh wow, I gotta rewatch the entire anime and reread the entire manga all over again. But it's a great series with great characters. From how it starts, at least when I started, I had no clue how the series was actually going to end. It has constantly like twists and turns and new characters and lovable characters and detestable characters and interesting characters. Did I mention that all the characters are so good? But it's Monster. It's a classic. If you haven't read Monster, I guess what are you doing? I don't want to force you to read anything, but like Monster is really something special to behold. You never really think of where it would end up from how it started, but it all makes sense, and it's a great series. I highly suggest Monster. And then underneath that we got Dorothera, which is technically finished publishing, I can talk, I swear, but I'm still collecting the issues. I'm almost done with it though. But why did I say Monster? But Dorothera is fantastic. I love the artwork. I love the grungy world and the grungy setting. I love that despite all the grunge that the series has, like all the characters are like generally lighthearted. They're like, oh, this is a normal place we're in. It's great. I love the vibes. I just love it so much. I love Noi. I love me and buff women. But this series is fantastic, and I'm so happy that it actually came over to the States, because this has been publishing for a while in Japan, and it didn't come over to like America until we got the anime. But yeah, it's a great series. It can be hard to follow sometimes, but oh boy, is just the artwork worth it. The artwork is so good. And then we have one of my current favorite comfort series, Way of the House Husband. I'm loving this one so far. I've actually just recently like caught up with all the manga that's currently out in our neck of the woods. But it's just a really good, comforting series for me. I like the humor a whole bunch. I always love the fish out of water. Buff man does thing that buff man shouldn't be able to do, and he does it flawlessly. It's funny, it's cute. I love the artwork. I love a man who respects his wife. We adore this series. We adore Way of the House Husband. I also like the anime too. I don't care what anyone says. And underneath that, we got my dear, my beloved Maya Jin. I'm so excited for the last volume. So a Jin is actually something that I actually did start collecting, I think, when it first started to come out in America, and I only picked up the first 3 volumes, and I just stopped collecting it for like years. And over the quarantine, I rewatched a bunch of series, and one of those series was the Jin anime. That's another CGI anime too. I actually think the CGI in the anime like looks pretty decent, especially for anime CGI. Some things look better than others though. It's still a fantastic like story-wise though, but the second season does diverge a lot from the manga. So I actually think that's really interesting, and it's good to theorize about, like, oh, if they ever continued from the anime, how would they deal with character arcs and stuff? But the Engine manga is something that I got back into, like, maybe, like, half a year ago when I rewatched the entire series, and it's great. It's action-packed, it has really interesting characters, a really, like, fun, like, unique main villain. The main villain's a gamer. Is that not a reason for you to pick this up right now? It's fantastic, but to be totally honest, I really only started, like, really getting into the series because I really like the character of Tanaka. He, like, his character arc and, like, character-like story just got me to buy every, like, issue of the manga that I did not have in one order because I just wanted to see his character arc. Koji Tanaka is the best character in a Jin. And that may be factually incorrect because the series has, like, Sato, but it's corrected by Heart. But the entire series is good, and all I want is Tanaka to have a happy ending. Please make my man happy. He's never felt happiness in his whole life. But yeah, the entirety of Jin is good. And I suggest if you want a good, like, action-packed series with interesting characters and a gamer villain and Tanaka. And underneath that, I have a series that I've seen no one ever talk about ever, which is wild. It's Blackbard. I think Blackbard's really fun. It has, like, really unique, fun art. It's a super short series. It's only, like, published in this omnibus. I see no one talk about the series, which is weird. Because, again, the artwork is super pretty. It's super gothic. I love the character designs. It's a pretty simple story, but it's fun. It's another, like, good, if I want, like, a quick action fix, I pick up Blackbard, and it's good, it's fun. And when I say Blackbard, I often say Blackbird instead, and I've read Blackbird too. It's been a while. Should I reread Blackbird? I remember interesting stuff about that series. Beneath Blackbard, we got Claymore, baby. Woman with swords. That's all I need to say. But no, more than that, I think Claymore is a fantastic manga series. Up there with probably being one of my favorite like, shonen series. Claire is a great character. Also good seeing, like, female leads in shonen, even, like, a mostly, like, female cast as well. And a mostly female cast with, like, very little to no fan service either. I don't really mind fan service, but, like, sometimes it gets on my nerves. But it's wild having a series consist of so many, like, different strong female characters and having none of them, like, have that fan service stuff. For me, the fan service is seeing the ladies with swords. That's all I need. But Claymore is great. I love Claire. I love the cast. I think the story branches out in a really cool, interesting way. Read Claymore if you haven't. Beneath that boy, we got ourselves a Pandora Hearts. Oh, Pandora Hearts. What can one say about Pandora Hearts? I think it's a fantastic, fun shonen series. Yeah, it's shonen. It's actually been a few years since I've read the whole series through. I've read it through in high school through Scanlation, so I'm buying physical now. That's gonna take forever because oh boy, is the series hard to find because I think it's out of print. Please get this series back in print, anyone. But I remember just reading through when I was in high school, and, like, the series, like, hit me in such an emotional way. And, like, even now, like, going through a lot of the volumes, I still feel those same emotions, like, come back within me. So, like, it's a great emotional series. The artwork is beautiful as well. The artwork, the character designs, it's a fantastic series that I'm rereading. I want to get more volumes. The problem is, like, most of it's out of print, so a lot of it's hard to find. So, but all that matters is I love Pandora Hearts, and I remember how much I loved it when I read through it in high school. Beneath that boy, this pile is getting unruly. It's gonna fall over and crush me eventually. Who knows when? Another, I think, really underrated shonen series being Gengaku Picasso. This is a very unique shonen series. It's about just a boy who solves people's problems by going into their brain and solving it with art and, like, the symbolism of art. And it's cool. It's really interesting. It's like 3 volumes. It's super short, but, like, the artwork is so detailed and so beautiful. It's a really unique series to go through, and it touches on, like, a lot of different, like, topics that I don't see, like, touched upon, like, a lot in really any kind of media, being like manga or TV shows or really anything. Just a lot of, like, topics that I don't see, like, discussed a lot. And I think it's great. It's short, and I think more people should give it a chance, despite not having too many punchies in it. But it does have a lot of beautiful art and a really unique main character too. I don't think I brought this up with Zachbell, but it's really interesting when you see shonen protagonists who are not like I will fight for my friends and stuff. No, he's a weirdo grumpy boy who doesn't like talking to people. We stan an icon. And the last manga that I'm going to discuss today is, of course, the Cirque du Freak manga. It's been like a whole video since I've talked about the Cirque du Freak manga, and my brain needs to talk about it again because I love Cirque du Freak. So if you don't know, Cirque du Freak is actually a book series by Darren Shan. I have the book series on my book series shelf. And it eventually got adapted into a manga, and the manga is fantastic. I think it does a few things better than the book series, and then the book series does some things better than the manga itself. It's you read both if you want to have a few ones, and then you pretend that the movie is not a Cirque du Freak movie and just a vampire comedy. One of these days I'm going to talk about the movie, and you're going to be horrified by how weird that movie gets. God. But it's, I love Cirque du Freak. I can't sing, but it's a great series. I'm so happy that that Yen Press is republishing it, because it was getting hard to find, and more eyes on this series means more potential for fans, which means more potential for another good adaptation of it, so we can ignore that the movie existed, so we can call the movie something else. But it's great. Read Cirque du Freak, really, if you haven't. Read the manga, too. It's a really, like, heart-wrenching, good series with a lot of, like, good characters, a lot of really good plot twists. It's just a fantastic series that often gets overlooked because the movie adaptation was garbage. I have a lot of feelings about the movie. One of these days I'm going to talk about it and you're all going to have to listen. But yeah, read Cirque du Freak if you haven't. I think it's really underrated. Both the manga and the book series. So, that's all she wrote. That's all of the manga that I am adoring at the moment. None of these were in any particular order, really. My favorite manga, like, changes so often. It's so hard to actually, like, rank them in any lists. But, well, what are some of your favorite manga? Have you read any of these? Do you have different opinions than me? Will you pick up any of these series after I poorly explained how much I love them? But yeah, those are some of the manga I loved. And who knows, I might do this again with more manga, because I just love talking about manga that I adore. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and have a nice day.